Hey, it's your favorite. I just want to say that I'm not dead as that kind of busy with life, but now let's get on to the video. So this year has been, well, let's be honest, complete shit. However, the roguelike releases this year have been pretty good, so we'll go over the top 10 releases this year, plus some honorable mentions and what we could expect in 2020. Now, just a disclaimer before we start, this list is 100% objective and whatever I say here is factual. If you don't see your favorite game on there, then make sure to leave an angry comment so I can ignore it. Now, let's go on to the count. Starting at number 10 is Skull the Hero Slayer. Let me get something clear, I really don't like this game. I think it's a lackluster Rogue Legacy 2. However, I can still admire the thought and effort this game has put into it, and I respect anyone who likes it. If I had to give it something to relate to, I'd say it has the feel, art style, and HUD as Dead Cells, while it plays similar to Rogue Legacy 2. In this game you have two forms you can swap between, and you can change your loadout depending on the skull you have. If you have, let's say, a Reaper skull, it gives you a unique set of abilities focused on burst melee action. And if you have a Biker skull as a secondary skull, you can swap to it and gain a new set of abilities focused primarily on speed and acceleration damage. Your goal is to pretty much just head right and fight enemies and unlock NPCs along the way. Moving on to number 9 is Synthetik 2. Now this game is a sequel to, you guessed it, Synthetik. This basically just takes the game and updates it, giving it brand new graphics, better code, reworked systems, new soundtracks, and more. While this game is still in early access, it looks like it has a lot of potential. I'd love to see the way it goes. Now at number 8, Loop Hero. This game is pretty unique. It's an idle game that takes a different approach to it. You have a character which you can't control at all, and it will walk a fixed path, fighting anything it encounters. You can give certain tiles special effects or add tiles to other tiles. For example, if you put a vampire house next to a blank tile, every day it will spawn a vampire that your hero has to fight when it comes back around. And while this might seem like exclusively a downside, it's required. Every loop the enemies get stronger, but enemies drop better gear, so the stronger the enemies you fight, the better gear you will receive. And some tiles give you items when you step on them, like sticks, wheat, etc., which you can use to upgrade your camp once you finish your run, giving you stuff to help you with your next run. Funnily enough, I'd usually put this game on my second monitor to play while waiting for a League of Legends game or if I was looking at the gray screen of death. Number 7, Dead Estate. This game is nuts and I love it. It's quite fast paced and I love the pixel isometric view you get while playing it. If I had a game to compare it to, I'd actually put it near Death Road to Canada just because of the art style, the view, and how the guns function. I don't actually have a ton to say about the game because I'm broke and don't have the money to get it at the moment, but hey, I would definitely recommend getting it if you can. Also, this game has a ton of titties, so I'd say it's a pretty solid buy. Now at number 6, Roguebook. Now this game is really cool and draws a lot of inspiration from Slay the Spire without feeling like a carbon copy. It's a turn-based deck builder made from the creators of Magic the fucking Gathering. Tell me that's not fucking cool. Similar to Slay the Spire, there's energy cost, cards that have special features and passive upgrades, etc. However, they're a bit more specialized. Most of the upgrades are character specific, so you shouldn't expect to receive the same item on both of your characters. Speaking of both your characters, you can actually have a partner to fight for you, both with your own specialized decks dependent on the character. This game also implements a down but not out system similar to Rainbow Six Siege or Call of Duty Warzone. Basically, when a character dies, it doesn't actually disappear, but instead it gets into a down state where they try to pull cards and revive themselves before the other teammate dies as well. And once both go down, the run is ended. Now something that they did that's completely original is how you move around the board. Instead of how Curse the Dead God and Slay the Spire move, which is just looking at a scroll and then picking which path you'd like to go on, Roguebook has a tile explorer set up, where you can use the ink to draw yourself a path, revealing what's on the hex when you've drawn it. It's unique and works as a way to not force fighting like most roguelites do, and lets you adventure a lot more. Now, going on about how it actually works, it's a lot similar to For the King. It's just not turn-based movement. You can also craft and buy cards, give cards special attributes, find shrines, and other interactables, and there's an overlaying currency that I still don't really know what it does, but overall, solid game. I would highly recommend it if you like Ring of Pain or Slay the Spire. On to number 5, Curse of the Dead Gods. Now, I'll be honest, I played this before I even knew what Hades was, and after playing Hades I still found myself appreciating Curse of the Dead Gods more. I like how the upgrades feel much more permanent, and how there's always an existential threat of gaining cursed as you go, instead of just worrying about your health. Speaking of Curse, it is one of this game's few gimmicks. Curse plays a part in the Battle of Light vs. Dark, which we'll get onto later. Every time you progress through a stage, pay for something in blood, or get hurt by a cursed enemy, you'll gain something called Curse. Every time you achieve a certain threshold of Curse, you'll get a new trait, up to a maximum of 5. Some of them can actually be double-edged swords, while others are straight-up hindrances. Once you reach the final Curse, you will gain a massive downside, which is usually a run hinder unless you have some kind of cheese build with your weapons or have a relic that benefits you the more Curse you have. Another gimmick this game has is light versus dark. Similar to Darkest Dungeon, this game has benefits for being in the light and negative effects for being in the dark. However, some weapons or relics will benefit you for being in the dark. The final gimmick I'll be covering here is the stats. Some relics and items both give you stats and scale off existing stats you have. To gain stats that aren't attached to items, you need to find an altar that will give you Temples of Coxwick? Temples of Coxwick. These give you options to pick from, sometimes allowing you to get 2 temples at once for extra gold or blood. You know what, let's just take the Jaguar Temple. The Jaguar Temple gives you extra maximum health. The Eagle Temple gives you extra damage, and the Serpent Temple gives you more gold. But as stated previously, some weapons will scale off of how much in a certain stat you have, so similar to Dead Cells, it's a good idea to spec fully into one instead of spreading them out. At number 4, we have BPM bullets per minute. Now, this game was actually released in Q4 of 2020. It's such a one-of-a-kind game that I have no choice but to include in this video. BPM is akin to Crypt of the Necrodancer, since it requires you to do everything in sync with the music. However, the catch with this game is that it's a first-person shooter with much more movement controls and micromanagement. In Crypt of the Necrodancer, you feel like you only have up, down, left, and right, and 2 separate keys to use bombs or active items. But in bullets per minute, you have to micromanage your dash timer, gun shooting, and reloading in sync with the music. Usually, the punishment is just that it cancels the action you were trying to perform, but on some characters it will actually hurt you. Now think of all these actions on top of trying to aim and dodge projectiles. It's fucking chaotic. This is a game I can recommend to anyone, so if you ever see this game on sale and want to prove your worth, I'd say this is a game for you. At number 3, we have Gunfire Reborn. While technically this game was launched in 2020, the full release happened earlier this year, and oh my god is it addicting. The game is similar to Enter the Gungeon, but cel-shaded like Risk of Rain 2, with an elemental effects akin to Borderlands. One of the reasons this game is ranking so high is because of how much of a passion project it is. There seems to be very little fan service, and it's mainly what the devs come up with, which I respect. And while their fan service is low, their community response time is surprisingly quick. For example, when this character was released, she looks like she took a few too many Benadryls, and it was fucking awful. I'm talking like full-on Sonic movie levels. But after about a week, they already updated her sprite and made her look a lot better. You know, like new Sonic, and I think that's pretty good. This game also has a pretty addictive gameplay loop, mainly because of how the synergies work, mainly stuff with character passive inscriptions on weapons. And now that we're on that topic, speaking of Inscryption, coming up at number 2 is Inscryption. This game is truly fucking wild. It is full of incredible artwork, some mind-bending roguelike elements such as sigils, multiple acts with different mechanics and visuals, plot twists, rich lore, and a card element such as Slay the Spire and Ring of Pain. I can't really go into detail about the game because it would be considered spoilers since it's a linear story game, but if you ever find it on sale or just have the money outright, I definitely sink your funds into it. It is truly a euphoric experience, and the only reason it's number 2 is because of my crippling addiction to the game at number 1. Oh, did I mention in this game when you die you can help the next person escape by turning yourself into a card? I didn't? Well, let's get started. Let's get a good picture of you first. Coming in at number 1 is The Binding of Isaac Repentance. Before we start, yeah, I know it's a DLC, and no, I really don't fucking care. It's essentially a game on top of a game. Repentance saw how well Afterbirth did and fucking ran with it. It adds hundreds of rooms, new enemies, new stages, a brand new tainted variation of vanilla characters, new bosses, and a balance changes. You will be missed, old friends. This was bigger than Afterbirth, and whatever the fuck this was, and even had content from previous mods like Antibirth. That's about all there is for this game. It was a perfect way to bury the Binding of Isaac hatchet. Also, they added this little dude, and he's cute, I guess. Wait, wow, wait, no! Now, on to some honorable mentions. Despot's game, Dystopian. Now there's some honorable mentions. Despot's game, Dystopian. Fucking hell. Now onto some honorable mentions. Despot's game, Dystopian Army Builder, is a really unique way of making a roguelike. Start with an army, and start fighting waves of enemy, and start slowly upgrading the further you go in. It's super cool, and I recommend trying to get it if you're more of a casual player or aren't very comfortable with computers yet. The next mention is Tribes of Midgard. It's a cooperative game where your focus is primarily surviving and gathering resources during the day, and focus on defending your home and surviving at night. It's incredible, but make sure you play with friends. It's not very fun without them. Finally, we have Darkest Dungeon 2. It's in beta, but it's truly an experience, and it takes what Darkest Dungeon did and improves it, similarly to Synthetik. There aren't a ton of games to look forward to, but I'll mention 4 of them I know right now. First is Risk of Rain 2 Void Update. It looks incredible, and I'm so glad they're taking their time with it. I want it to be nice and fleshed out. The next game is Have a Nice Death. It's a Souls-inspired side-scroller that looks akin to Skull and the Rogue Legacy. The art style is incredibly adorable. I hope I can get it as soon as it comes out. One super cool game that's coming out between Q1 and Q2 of 2020 is The Unliving. It's an army-based game simulator to Despot's game, where the goal is to conjure an army and wipe out millions with a between-run progress, upgrades, and skills inside of a run, and a top-down isometric view. Now onto the game we've all been waiting for, Killer Bean the Game, and no, I'm not fucking kidding, this is actually happening in 2022 and it's a roguelike. If your friends don't believe them, just show them the video. I cannot tell you how fucking wild it is that they're making a Killer Bean game and it's a roguelike. Dear God, I have never been so horny for a game. And surprisingly, the graphics genuinely look good as well. Like, this game looks like a professionally made game with high action, procedurally generated landscapes, and killer motherfucking bean! But, alright guys, that's all I got today. If you want to join our Roguelike Renegade server where we're doing a Christmas giveaway competition, then make sure to join. But that's all. Alright, see ya.